guys. Well, you just heard it in the intro. Another solo episode. Let's kind of dive in to what happened last week, how it made us feel, how our country responded, and what moving through this period of time as a country looks like. What does it mean? You know, I think the assassination of Charlie Kirk is really our generation's JFK. He was a young, vibrant, hyper-intelligent person that just was changing perspectives. He was the guy that was going out there, putting in the work, and really interacting with young people and helping young people come to new conclusions. Now, I want to say this, guys. You know, everybody that talks about Charlie Kirk, they have to preface it with, I don't agree with all of his opinions. I don't think that's a necessary thing to say because he's not me. Of course, I don't agree with all of his positions. I don't know if there's a man on planet Earth that when I listen to him, it's like, yep, he has everything figured out. He's doing everything perfectly. He's doing everything correctly. Not him or anybody else. But regardless of that, I think we can all agree. If you're listening to this show, it tells me your brain works. If your brain works, I think you can look at who he was as a man and say he was out there moving the needle towards good. Regardless if you agree with him on his faith or a lot of his political positions or, you know, some people coming down on him for his support for Israel that he held for a period of time. And none of us have it figured out. Not me, not him. And so, sure, if he had a position on a topic that you didn't think was the correct answer, well, guess what? That's called being a human being. Where I think he excelled beyond almost anybody that I've seen in my generation is he could take his positions, he could take those differences, he could hand a microphone to you, he could sit across a table and say, well, tell me why you think what you think, and then I'll tell you why I think what I think. Now, more often than not, I think he would come out on top because a lot of people that are against his ideology, I feel like they come to debate guns a-blazing and they are hopeful that they're going to have a I gotcha moment. But when you're hyper intelligent and you're a seasoned debater, it's very hard to get someone in an I gotcha moment, right? It's just like when patrons heckle Joe Rogan during a comedy performance. And it's like, dude, you're trying to get into a verbal altercation with a professional, with a guy that has 5,000 people there that are in support of him, that like his energy, that like his perspectives, that like his comedy. And you're going to try and find an I got you moment. And the truth is, you're probably going to fail. If I tried to sit across a table from Charlie Kirk hoping to have an I got you moment, well, I'll tell you, I'd probably look foolish. And a lot of people did, walking away from those micro interactions that they would have looking foolish. I think the kids that walked away typically looking foolish is because they showed up to the debate without an open mind and without being able to come to a conclusion that, hey, maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe this guy knows something that I don't. Maybe this guy can teach me something that would change my perspective. If both parties showed up to a debate holding that energy, I think we could have a lot of growth in this country. But we don't have that, guys. We don't have that. We have a percentage of our youth that is being radicalized. They're being radicalized through social media, through university, and through mainstream media, CNN and MSNBC and all those ones, where they are beat over the head anytime they're looking at the television, anytime they're looking at their phone, that if you bring up something about Black culture, if you show some type of, what's the word I'm looking for? If you show some type of disapproval of how the LGBTQ community lives or how trans people live, or you take a stance that is opposite of theirs by saying like, dude, I only think there are two sexes, men and women. They, they have been programmed to weaponize those statements and turn that into victim culture. You know, when Charlie Kirk says, I believe that there's only two sexes, there's men and there's women. There's two different sets of chromosomes. They're determined at birth, and that is who you are in this world. That shouldn't make anybody else angry. But you want to know why comments like that make people angry? Is because subconsciously they know their truth. But if they acknowledge that truth, it starts to tear down their own team's message that they're trying to push to the world. I think we all know that the message that we're sending to our young people is one based in lies. It's toxic. It's meant to build confusion. It's meant to build division. And most importantly, it's meant to diminish that person's personal strength. Imagine telling a young person, you know what? God got it wrong with you, and you are actually born wrong. Your body is wrong. Your hormones are wrong. And the way you look is wrong. And I mean, can we think of a darker thing to tell a young person? I mean, body image is something that all young people, I think both men and women, will struggle with at some point in time. You want to look a certain way. We want to look like our idols. We want to be strong. We want to have a six pack. We have these ideas in our mind in which masculinity, how it aesthetically looks and how it visually looks. And then we have an idea in our mind how femininity looks. And we've created these ideas that these archetypes this is what represents masculinity. This is what represents femininity. And if I'm being completely honest with you guys, that's not necessarily wrong. I think a strong, capable man does have certain attributes that his body will display if he has taken care of himself, and he does eat and fuel his body with healthy, powerful nutrients, and he is hydrated, and he is well rested. And the list can go on and on. We're not going to turn this into a capability episode, but I do think there are archetypes of what living a wholesome, powerful life starts to reflect inside of your body. And if your body isn't projecting any of those things to the outside world, now it's very easy to start to have doubt and self-hatred and arrive at a conclusion where, hey, my body's wrong. My body's broken. I feel this way, but I look that way. And please don't misconstrue what I'm saying for certain people that do. Here's the thing, guys. The right, we have to acknowledge, and I think we are for the most part, the conservative side of the aisle has to acknowledge there are a certain amount of people that no matter what they do, they just don't feel like they're who they're supposed to be. And that's why we see surgeries and cross-dressing. And now, do I think a certain amount of that is rooted in mental illness? Of course I do. And I think that that's probably the foundation of what's going on. But if an adult wants to do to their body these things that, in my opinion, are typically rooted in mental illness, who am I to say yes or no? And the sad part about this whole situation was Charlie didn't hate people for changing their bodies or thinking they're a girl when they're a boy. He didn't have any bigotry. He didn't want people to be ostracized or be punished or any of this. I mean, everybody keeps talking about fascism. He was a fascist. Nothing could be further from the truth. Fascism is, hey, it's literally this: a government telling you, hey, this is how you have to believe. This is how you have to think. These are the people you have to support. And if you don't, well, there's going to be consequences. So by definition of what fascism is, it's, hey, you have to adopt these certain set of beliefs and principles. And if you don't, we'll fucking kill you. That's literally what fascism is. Look at Chairman Mao. Look at go down the list of communist dictators that have implemented, look at North Korea, right? You have to toe this line, and if you don't, we'll fucking kill you. or at a minimum lock you in a cage. So the fact that Charlie was killed for speaking a certain way, and people say, I don't like how he thinks and I don't like how he speaks, so we're going to fucking kill him. That is literally, by definition, that's a fascist ideology. We don't like how you think, we're going to kill you. Yet they're calling him the fascist, and that is because they've been programmed to think that. No, you can go back and you can watch 100 videos where he's talking to gay people, he's talking to transgender people, he's talking to minorities, and he's voicing his concerns, but he never voiced hate. And that's just a truth. People can fucking... The interesting thing about the world that we live in right now is everything has receipts. Go watch his stuff. See how much hate he projects on people. Because I've watched a lot of it this last week, and I haven't found much hate. You know, in conjunction with him getting killed, me and my wife went down hard with either the flu or COVID. Who knows what it is these days. But regardless, I was bedridden for about 3 days. So not only was it an emotionally tough season for our country, it was also a physically tough season for me. So I didn't plan a podcast. I didn't schedule any guest because I didn't know when I would start to feel better. Today is September 17th. It's the first day that I felt well enough to come to the gym and teach. So it's been a week. It's my first time here. I'm just sitting down for however long this is, and I wanted to share my thoughts and get this out there. Now, this is where the wheels fall off. A person decided that Charlie Kirk's words were so hateful that they wanted to take his life, and they did that. And they shot him through the neck in front of his wife and his children. And I watched the video a lot. I kind of wish that I didn't, but there's some weird fucking morbid curiosity inside of me that wanted to try and understand, wanted to attach a why to it. And obviously you can't do that because it's outside of how most of our brains work with any type of rational, logical thought process. And emotionally, it was heavy. On top of that, physically, I was bedridden. And so really, really dark week. But what made it dark beyond comprehension, what made it dark beyond watching a good man get killed in front of his family, was the way people reacted to it. People nationwide had a pretty substantial celebration. Now, I want to preface it and say this. Is that what social media is projecting to us? You know, if 1% of the population is celebrating his death, but it seems to be front and center every time you're scrolling through your feed, makes you feel like 100% of people on the left are happy that he's dead. I was happy to see Bill Maher post the other day where he's like, dude, he's like, Charlie Kirk sat in my podcast studio. He sat in that chair and now he's gone. And if you think that that's good because he wasn't on your team, fuck you. Fuck you. And I was like, man, even people on the left whose brains still work and they're not just fully indoctrinated by this mass form hypnosis, they're starting to see this as wrong too. As I sit here, I wonder what percentage of Americans actually think this was a good thing and celebrate this. And what I saw was doctors, I saw teachers, all kinds of professionals. I saw nurses posting celebratory memes, vile things about him. I mean, there's a meme going around that's like a cartoon figure of him with blood squirting out of his neck. People were chanting and cheering. And if I'm being completely honest with you guys, that stole hope from me. It did. Because if you live in a nation that celebrates a young, intelligent man being murdered in front of his babies, I don't know if there is reconciliation. I don't know if there is unity. I'm 275 episodes in, guys. You guys know my heart. You know my perspective. You know my political ideology. And something I've been moving towards a lot lately is unity, 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 unity. And I've even talked about trying to implement programs to try and bring people together, to try and show people that we don't hate each other, to try and show people we do share a lot more. I should say we have a lot more things we agree on as human beings than we disagree on. But when we hyper focus on the small things that we disagree on to the point where not only are you killing someone, because let's be honest, one person made a decision to kill him. We'll get into that. But if the narrative that we're being told is the true story, one person made this decision. That shouldn't be a representation of the entire left. But the reaction that we're seeing is that a lot of people on the left do support that and think that was the right choice and the right action to take. That is, to me, that is more concerning than the actual shooter killing Charlie Kirk, because no matter how good or bad of a person you are, there's someone out there that wants to kill you. There's people out there that want to kill me. They've told me before. I mean, there was a guy out there that wanted to kill Dimebag Darrell for writing Pantera songs. So the individual man being targeted for his actions, that's a story that is as old as time. And I'm not saying that justifies it or that makes it okay, but my brain can wrap around the fact that one man hated Charlie Kirk so bad that he wanted to eliminate him from planet Earth. I think it's dark. I think it's gross, but my brain can look at that scenario and say, well, that is the world we live in. And if you're preaching things against transgenderism and you're preaching things against living without Jesus in your life and the stuff that Charlie was a proponent of, you can sit back and you can use a logical thought process and be like, there's a certain amount of people that are going to be very upset that he says my lifestyle is not the right lifestyle. And so somebody took that to heart and somebody acted on that and somebody took his life. And that's the world we live in. And I hate that, but that's the world we live in. What I can't wrap my head around and what is not making sense is how, again, I don't know what the numbers of people are, but it seems pretty substantial that they're using that moment as something to celebrate. And if you're that person, man, like I don't think that we have, I think that is irreconcilable differences, as they call it. If you watch Charlie Kirk get shot through the neck and it made you laugh and it made you say, yes, who's next? We got one. I'm so happy. We got him. I heard people saying that. We finally got him. Like this is some type of accomplishment. This is the problem in our country. And I'm honest. I'm just being honest with you guys. I don't have anything written out. I don't do that when I sit down and talk to you guys. I just sit down and I speak from the heart, and that's what I'm doing. I don't know how we can resolve this. I've seen, I think like 10,000 people have been fired. Think about that, guys. That starts to tell you how big this is. 10,000 people have been fired for celebrating his murder. And again, they're doctors, they're airline pilots, they're teachers, they're people that are supposed to hold, I guess I would say they're people that are in positions where they shouldn't be in those positions if their brain can't decipher the fact that you guys there's been this fucking decade-long media campaign to rot everybody's brains, and now they've arrived at a point where they're celebrating murdering people as 40-year-old airline pilots. If you can't detach from it and look at yourself and say, dude, what the fuck am I doing? I don't think that we could ever arrive at a point where we can come eye to eye on things. I just don't think that that's the case. And I hate saying that because if we get further divided, this country falls. That's my true belief. That is historically what happens. Countries don't just get further divided apart, further and further and further. And then one day they say, hey, you know what? Everything was a lot better when we shared differences, but we still had a common goal. We shared differences, but we still had a common goal of a prosperous economy, safe streets, like sovereignty for people, freedom for people. And live and let live is a real thing that I think is necessary for a thriving community or a thriving society. But it can't be live and let live to the expense where our ideologies are at war with each other. Live and let live means I don't care who you share your bed with, but it doesn't mean you can project violence, negativity, and to our students and to our schools and to our communities to the point where it's really charging people up for war. And that's what we're seeing. People are feeling like they're being charged for war. And the division flame is being stoked more now than I've ever seen in my entire life. And it just makes you feel like, where do you go from here? A lot of people are like, fuck it, it's time for Civil War II. I don't know, man. I don't know. I wish I had answers for you. Maybe you're tuning in to find an answer, but I'm one of you guys. I always say I'm not your guru. I'm just a guy living life in this society, trying to decipher right from wrong and walk a path that's going to serve me and serve my community and serve my people. And we're at a point where it just doesn't seem like a viable outcome. So what do we do? I've talked a lot. Let me say this too, because I've talked a lot on the show where I say, string that motherfucker up, right? String him up. Well, am I promoting violence on the show? For me to say no that I haven't would be disingenuous. It'd be dishonest. But I want to make a distinction, guys. I do. I want to make a distinction. When you are in a position of power, you are a Anthony Fauci, and you are implementing policy that's depriving people of their freedom. It's having them rounded up and locked up. It's having people put in a cage. I mean, dude, do you guys remember that video? I don't remember where it was at, but the National Guard was called in. And they're patrolling down the streets, and it was during COVID, and they're like, get in your house, get in your house. And people are like sitting on their porch, and then they started shooting people with rubber bullets. And it's like, okay, if you are using a position of power to attack people and control people and subjugate people, I feel like string them up is a phrase that we use to our oppressors. And oppressors have been strung up since the beginning of time. I don't think that option should ever be off the table, because if they want to deprive you of your God-given rights and your constitutional rights to pursue a life that provides joy and love to you and your family, and someone wants to deprive you of that, string them up has to be an option. So for us to be the party that always says, I never condone violence. Well, sometimes you condone violence because the people that you are condoning the violence against are actively using violence against you. And we've seen that in our own country. Depriving people of their constitutional rights based on a political narrative should be dangerous for elected leaders to do. I do think it should be. If you're going to step into a position of power, excuse me, and then you're going to use that position of power to benefit yourself while simultaneously sucking the soul out of the people, out of your constituents, taking their money, taking their resources, and then allocating it in a manner that serves you and not them, it needs to be dangerous, guys. It does. Charlie Kirk wasn't part of the government. Let's make that crystal clear right now. If you went after a government official because of those things that I just talked about, even if it was on the other side of the political aisle, right? If someone wanted to assassinate a prominent Republican figure because they said, well, he voted this policy and I interpret that as. I would still not support that, but my logical brain could say, I understand why that person came to that conclusion. Charlie Kirk was the guy that went and talked on college campuses. But this is where we might need to put our tinfoil hat on. Because he wasn't a politician, but he was moving the needle more than the politicians. He was opening people's eyes, and he had a movement behind him. And once you have momentum, it starts to scare people. When you are speaking truth that shines a spotlight on other people's lies, and it starts to awaken people, you're damn right. They're going to want to stifle that. And so I think he had a bright future. You know, I've seen a lot of people online say that he was probably going to be the next president, not the next president, a president at some point in his future. And I think that may be, I think that there may be validity to that. I mean, the guy was brilliant. I'm often mesmerized by people that can just recall times and names and facts. The guy could recite the whole Bible, which was crazy to me. But I also saw him, debating a hardcore conservative that is disgusted with any conservative that accepts homosexuality. He's like, that's not part of our Bible. That's not part of our ethos. And you sit here and you tell people that if that's who they want to be, that and what they do behind closed doors is none of my business. He's like, you are wrong. And Charlie goes, so you think homosexuals in the conservative movement is a bad thing? And the kid goes, yes, it is. It is a bad thing. And he goes, what about? And he literally named off like 10 to 12 people that are gays inside of a conservative movement. And he goes, you don't think they're helping the movement? You don't think this guy helps conservatism grow? You don't think this guy helps conservatism grow? And just the fact that he was able to always recall with such detail and such precision is something that should inspire you regardless if you liked what he had to say or not. Because very, very, very few of us are that intelligent of human beings. And so there's a part of me that looks at this like, all right, this, even though he wasn't part of the government, this is still a political assassination because he was moving the needle for conservatism. And if you can do that, man, it's gonna put crosshairs on your back, and that's what we saw with him. Now, do you think a trans kid's boyfriend was looking at it in that big of a picture? I'm taking this guy out because he's shifting the narrative. I'm taking this guy out because he's changing the voting culture. He's changing the younger generation's perspectives. Do you think he was thinking that big picture? Or do you think he's thinking, he said trans people are this and my boyfriend's trans, so fuck you? That's probably more likely to what motivated this 22-year-old man to crawl up on a rooftop and shoot him. In fact, the text messages came out today between him and his boyfriend, and it stated, all right, well, I did it. And Diz like, did what? You were the shooter? It seemed to be, based on a very short transcript of the text messages, it seemed to be that his boyfriend did not have an understanding that he was going to go do this. And he said, how long have you been planning it? He goes, oh, I don't know, a week. And so that kind of checks out for a young person with a trans boyfriend to get angry and go grab his grandpa's rifle, crawl up on a rooftop and shoot him. Now, I'll say this, guys, because one of the big parts of the conspiracy theory is people are saying there's no way that a young man could do that. It was a professional. It was a professional sniper. It was a professional assassin. When my boys were younger, that's a whole topic in itself, man. That's heavy right now. we would go shooting, and I would shoot with a 12-year-old boy that could keep with my Remington 700 chambered in 308, he could keep his shot group inside of a dime at 150 yards. And that's not saying that he was the best marksman in the world. That's me letting you guys know, when you got a nice high-powered rifle with a nice scope on it that's zeroed properly, it's not very difficult to make that shot. In fact, it's relatively easy to make that shot. So that's another part of this story that for me checks out, that it could have been this kid, because that's an easy shot. The other thing is professionals, because I used to be one. You know what I mean? When I worked for State Department, I was a DDM. They changed the name sniper to designated defensive marksman, because sniper sounds too aggressive for our branches of government outside of the Department of Defense, or the Department of War now. So when I worked for Department of State and I was overseas, DDM was a defensive designated, I already said it. You were trained to shoot center mass, or if you have to take a headshot, based on what? If he has body armor or target available, right? So I was thinking about where Charlie was shot. This kid was up above him. The trajectory was downward. He was sitting in that tent. Maybe he couldn't get a bead on the head based on the how high the side of that tent was. But regardless, a trained shooter would have taken the headshot or would have put a bullet right through center mass of his sternum. The fact that he got shot in the side of the neck tells me it's not this fucking top of the food chain assassin. Now, with that said, is severing a carotid artery in the neck potentially one of the best ways to kill someone with a high-powered rifle? Probably. I think Charlie was dead before he hit the ground. That's my own personal opinion. I watched the video and I was like, dude, that is not a survivable gunshot wound. And it took a while to come out. Again, it happened live on the air last week. But to me, the placement of the shot kind of takes away from professional assassin and more towards dumb college kid that's mad about his boyfriend being called a girl. No. About his boyfriend being called a man when he claims to be a girl, or whatever the case may be. It's hard for me to even say that, because it's so preposterous that these are arguments that we're having within our society. It's preposterous. You want to be gay, man? Be a gay man. I have friends that are gay men. I don't care. I don't think most people care. But now that I have to call you a woman because you put a wig on, and if I don't, I'm doxing you, I'm a racist, I'm a bigot, I'm a fascist. That's what caused all of this, guys. It's not living in reality. No one has to call you a woman because you put a wig on and you want to pretend you're a woman. It doesn't even mean I have a problem with you. But that's what caused all of this, is because these kids were convinced so aggressively that if you're not being addressed by your pronouns, you're a victim. You're a victim of racism. And if people want to address you by their pronouns, they're a Nazi. They're literally like Hitler. And this is what caused it. I think you're going to get some of those today, guys. I'm just getting over some bullshit. I think the real culprit behind this is the mainstream media. That's what I think. And all the political division that is warped young people's minds into thinking, I'm a man, but I want to be called a girl, but he called me a man anyways. He's a fascist and I want to fucking kill him. As someone that has killed other human beings, I hope when your day comes, when you feel like you have to engage in warfare and take the life of other men, I hope you go to the battlefield for a bigger reason than that. Because if that is the hill you're dying on, you are wasting your life. You are wasting your energy. This kid's going to get killed. He's going to get death by firing squad. And it was because you're angry about a title. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? What are you young people doing? And then the other side of it is killing him. You know what killing him did? It emboldened his message tenfold. Turning Point USA has had like more members join in the last 3 days than ever before. Like, this is gonna strengthen Charlie's message more than it's ever been strengthened. It's gonna embolden the right to really rest on the message of truth. And don't get me wrong, that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but I hate that this had to happen for this to transpire. So for the people that are now completely convinced that this was a Mossad agent and that this was something that was conducted by the Israeli government because Charlie was starting to see the Israeli government for what they are, for people that believe that, I'm simply going to say, man, I don't have enough information to say if I think you're right or wrong. You know, I think we want to be able to be told a story. This is who it was. This is why he did it. The trans thing checks out. Arrest this kid, try him, execute him, case closed. But as we've known for generations, guys, the government lies to us. What we are told is not true. And even though I don't have reason to believe or facts and circumstances that allow me to land on he's a patsy and this was a professional assassination by our government for division or Israeli government because he's not supporting, he was going to start teaching people about Zionism. Like, all of those theories have an element that makes sense to me. But I caution you guys, don't get pulled into a narrative because it feels good or it emotionally gives you some type of satisfaction. That's what they want, right? And so, again, I'm not telling you it was one thing or it was the other. As it sits right now, does it seem like it's the kid? Probably. But then again, if it was a comprehensive, well-planned out, government-backed assassination, they're going to have a plan laid out that's going to make you say, yeah, this looks like it is what it is. And I'm aware of that as well. Could this be Lee Harvey Oswald all over again? And I hate to say this. I don't know if we'll ever be satisfied with what we hear. I don't know if there will ever be clarity on this situation. And this might be our generation's version of JFK, where for the next 3 decades of our lives, we'll be 80-year-old men saying, man, when fucking Charlie got killed, you remember this didn't make sense and that looked off. But it's also easy. If you make a decision up front, it's like, no, it was the fucking radical Zionist from Israel. That's who it was. I know it was. Now it's easy to start to look at the pieces and attach this little detail and that little detail to support your version or your outcome that you have already landed on or that you are hopeful for. And everybody loves a big twisted government conspiracy. But that's because we've been exposed to them. 9/11. Tucker Carlson's talking about 9/11 recently with Piers Morgan. You want to go watch an interesting episode? Watch Tucker Carlson on Piers Morgan. And I think Tucker does a great job because one of the things that Piers said to him, he goes, well, what do you think happened? And Tucker goes, it's not my job to tell you. I'm not here to fabricate a story. I'm not here to say like, oh no, it's actually like this. He goes, I'm here to say the 9/11 Commission, the report they released is filled with holes. It's filled with flaws. And these are the holes and these are the flaws. And these are the people involved. It doesn't mean I know what happened, but I do know that this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And this doesn't make sense. Are we going to investigate that? Are we going to ask the hard questions? And we're not. And we never were. And we never did. So when you don't do those things, guess what? People run with them on their own and they try and connect the dots on their own. And we start to come to conclusions that are very, very, very anti what the government narrative was. You know, like literally they talked about Tower 7. How the fuck did Tower 7 fall when there's a building in between it and it wasn't hit by a plane? Tell me how Tower 7 fell. And guys, I'm with you on that. What we were told on 9/11 was not the truth. Again, does that mean I have the answers? And that's what I loved about Tucker's interview. The burden of proof is not on me. I can watch Loose for Change and I can listen to videos that make sense and I can say, hey, no. This is what happened. But I think what's more important is for us as a society to be like, nope, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Fucking, we want a full, transparent investigation. And when you're a peasant and you're working for modern day royalty, like the American government works, we're not going to get those answers because you are the peasant. And I'm not hopeful that we're going to come to conclusions on this. And it's sad, guys. It is. It's something that really shocked the nation. I mean, dude, I almost pulled last week's episode because I remember sitting in here. I was on the verge of tears. I was furious. I was like, fuck you, fuck. Like, mad, dude. I allowed my emotions to control my speech. And I thought about pulling it and I said, you know what? I don't care who you are. Sometimes you have an emotional outburst. Sometimes things affect you and you have an emotional reaction. That's part of being a human being. And if you guys have been with me for 275 episodes, guess what? That's how it goes sometimes. I used to be like that a lot more often than I am now. And last week fucking got me, guys. It did. There's a part of me that's a little embarrassed that Angry Anderson was fucking back, full present, full power. But there's a part of me that also thinks, dude, just if being authentically you is okay, man. You don't always have to be happy. Sometimes you can be fucking so mad that you can barely speak. Sometimes you can have a visceral reaction to something really dark and gross, and it can make you sick to your stomach, and the emotions that follow that can carry a lot of fuck you energy, right? Fuck you energy can be good. I never want to have that part of who I am taken away from me, because as soon as it's gone, I'm going to need it. You need to be able to stand up and look at someone and say, fuck you, let's go, right? But what we're finding is we're being pulled into that point where it's fuck you, let's go, over a meme, over something I saw, over a video. And fuck you, let's go energy, that it should mean combat is imminent. And when you hold that energy for long periods of time, but your body doesn't go through and get to experience something that can help transmute that, that's what makes us sick. So you get triggered and there's no transmuting. You get triggered and there's no transmuting. You get triggered, there's no transmuting. Now you fucking come down with cancer. And that is a reason why I intentionally tried to move away from being the angry Uncle Anderson, as some of you guys call it. Like, oh, my angry uncle's back on the Endless Endeavor Day. And we laugh and people listen to it and they like it. They like it because it resonates, because it's truth. I believe my anger, when I've been angry on this show, is rooted in truth. But that's still a mechanism of getting people fuck you energy in their heart. And where does it go? Unless you go transmute it through, and there, I mean, we don't need to make this an episode about transmuting emotions because there's different ways you can do it, right? But if you don't do it, now you sit with it. And I think a lot of people have been sitting with anger for this last week, and it's being felt by everybody. I got real sick, and I haven't been that sick in a long time. And if I'm being honest, I don't think that's a coincidence. Something that really, really affected me emotionally. Boom, me and Jenny were both sick as fuck for like 4 days. And so, you know, if you watch a gazelle taking a drink of water out of the Nile River, and a giant crocodile shoots out of the water and tries to grab it, and maybe it barely misses, or maybe it just barely gets a hold of it, but regardless, the animal is able to wiggle out of it and jump and escape. You watch what that animal does. It'll walk away from the danger, and once it's in a safe location, it will give itself almost like a self-induced seizure. And what that self-induced seizure does is it transmutes all of the adrenaline and norepinephrine that is running through your veins, because you went from I'm having a drink of water to fucking bam, fight or flight. I'm dying right now. Now I'm using this as an example because it's dramatic, right? Very few of us in our world go from I'm having a drink and now I'm fighting for my life. But the point is, when you get exposed to traumas, and your body has a chemical cocktail dump that gives you this visceral reaction. That visceral reaction has been built into our body since the beginning of time, because when we're exposed to danger, we have fight or flight. I have to run and get away, or I have to engage in combat. Both of those things are hard. That activity is part of what transmutes the energy. But if you get away and it's not fully transmuted, that's when the animal says, okay, now I have a seizure. Let's burn off the rest of this norepinephrine and this adrenaline that's running through my brain or through my body, so I'm not out of homeostasis. Or I should say, so it brings me back into homeostasis. That way, all that shit is not just sitting in you. Man, we live in a time where shit is sitting with us. It's sitting with us constantly. You can't scroll Instagram without going into fight or flight. And I am guilty of it as much as any of you guys. You see something that triggers you and you feel, fuck you, man. What the fuck is that kid saying? And the truth is, what that kid is saying, I'll just use the kid with the bullhorn that I saw, and he was singing, "We got Charlie in the neck, we got Charlie in the neck," and he had some song that he was singing, and when I saw it, I wanted to smash his face with a sledgehammer, because it's like, that was my visceral reaction. And I think it should be my visceral reaction, but the fucked up. The thing that's out of alignment is that kid's probably in New York. There's 350 million people between me and him. What do I have to gain by feeling this overwhelming urge to hurt this person when I have no real outlet to accomplish that? What do I gain from that? I can tell you what I gained, because I gained it. You gain sickness. You gain your body clinging on to this energy that is fight or flight based, with no action being able to be taken. And that puts us in a real weird spot. And so, guys, again, it's going to be a short episode. Fuck, it's already been 50 minutes. I've been rambling for 50 minutes straight. It's crazy to me. I want to leave you with this, because Tyler pulled me aside. He saw it. He got here to the gym. It was the day that Charlie died, and he saw it in my heart. And he gave me a hug, and he goes, "Bro, I can see what you're feeling. I can feel it in your body when I gave you that hug." He goes, "But we cannot allow ourselves to give such powerful emotions to situations that have nothing to do with our personal life. Nothing to do with our personal life at all. It's not affecting your family. It's not affecting your career. It's not affecting your people. It's not affecting your tribe." And I sat with that for a little bit, because that is also true to a certain extent. But this is the reality of the world we live in right now. When we lived nomadically and we lived with 200 people and we were traveling across the Arctic tundra with our people and the oxen were dragging all of our equipment and whatnot, something that happened 10,000 miles away, no matter how egregious, no matter how gross, no matter how vile, that energy didn't get put right into your heart, because you had no way of even knowing it transpired. And I honestly think that our bodies are not designed to take on the traumas of thousands of people every single day. Just trauma, trauma, trauma. You're scrolling Instagram and you're seeing this person get fucking shot by the police. You're seeing this girl get stabbed in the neck. You're seeing Charlie Kirk get killed. Or you're even seeing like microaggressions where it's like a liberal teacher is arguing with a conservative student over something. It's like, that fucking bitch, dude. How dare her talk to a student like that? Like, but what I'm saying is we're consuming traumas and triggers. But here's the other side of the coin that is important to remember. We now live in a connected society. That's the reality of it. We do live in a connected society. And now I know what's going on in fucking Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia. If something catastrophic happens anywhere on planet Earth, if it's truly a catastrophic occurrence, I'm going to be watching it within minutes. And now I'm feeling the emotions of it. And while it could be bad for me for the reasons that I just explained, now that the world is connected, do we have to know what's going on a global scale? Is it necessary to consume enough to understand what is happening on a global scale? Because now that the world's connected, the things that occur on a global scale do have the potential to have fallout that affects your life. And I don't know where I've landed on that, guys. I don't know. I could turn my phone off today and never look at it again. And I'm probably going to be a happier person. That's probably a truth, right? But if I turn my phone off today to protect my own heart, and now I'm just ignorant to what's going on to the rest of the world, that might feel good in the moment. But what if I am disallowing myself to consume knowledge or see things that's going to have a cascading effect that will affect my family one day, that will be on my front door one day? And then people be like, I told you, bro, this shit's been happening for years. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And now it's on your front door. And you tried to just fucking put it out of sight, out of mind for my own peace. And now your own children are being fucking affected by it. And I thought, man, I had to pull my children out of public school. I had to. And now I'm spending thousands of dollars a month to make sure that their brains don't get indoctrinated and rotted by this filth. And it's like, Greg, it is on your doorstep. It's already cost you thousands of dollars. They already tried indoctrinating your children with this crazy shit. It is on your doorstep. So I'll leave you guys with a question, because I know a lot of really, really smart people listen to this show, and I get people writing me, and I think, again, guys, I'm part of your team. I like being a leader. I like leadership positions, but that doesn't mean that there's not other leaders on our team. If you're listening to this, you're probably a leader on our team. What is the right answer? I have very often said informed but not consumed. I think that's a good starting point. But what I'm finding, guys, is being informed, it does come with being consumed. And trying to balance that out, it's been a difficult journey for me, but particularly this last 7 days, it's been even a harder journey for me. So share your thoughts with me, guys. Dark week, man. That's what it comes down to. I would hope that our country was better than that. Not only in the assassination, but in the fallout, in the rhetoric, in the demonstrations. I thought we were better than that. But then I have to remember, this world that we occupy has always been opposing forces. People fighting for their religion, people fighting for land, people fighting for my government over your government. Like that has been a part of humanity since the beginning of time. And I don't know if we are capable of evolving past that. This is just our 80 years on planet Earth as a collective of people. And we're just seeing what human beings play out over and over and over. And man, I wish there was a continent somewhere that was uninhabited and we could get a group of people together and we can get in our boats and we can just go fucking start over. And people did that forever. And in the last 100 years, that is no longer a viable option because all the real estate's been taken up. You can't just go find somewhere new and start. It doesn't work like that anymore. And so a lot of things are becoming out of alignment simultaneously where we don't get to escape the bullshit. The bullshit's ever present and it's in your face and it's part of our lives now. So how do we navigate today's society? I want you guys to think on that. I think you guys should have this topic around your dinner table. Start a fire and have this topic with conversate on this topic with your homies. At a bare minimum, I'm not saying there's action to be taken because, I mean, at the end of the day, what action do you take? What action do we take in response to this? I don't know, man. So 2 weeks of solo episodes. One was rather out of control. I think today I sat down and I shared what I think I needed to share. And we'll be back with guests, empowering conversations, building ourselves stronger, building ourselves more capable. The war is coming, guys. And the longer this fucking can gets kicked down the road, I think the conclusion that I come to more and more and more is that the war that is coming, I don't think it's going to be left versus right. I don't think it's going to be this government versus that government. I think the next war is probably good versus evil because that's what it's feeling like. That's what this scenario kind of showed me. This isn't competing ideologies. This is good versus evil. And I know everybody thinks they're on team good, right? The people that are saying that the vile, rotten things, they think they're on team good too. But unfortunately, there's only one good and there's only one evil. And I'm being very objective when I say this. We're not on team evil. We know we're not on team evil.